Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I am part of the customer engineering team at strongDM. A major use of logs by our customers is recording SSH sessions. We record Kubernetes similarly, but I will go now only through an example of an SSH session. So with SSH, you can send commands via SDM in a non-interactive manner. And here is an example. So in this, I am doing SSH to this host, aws-ssh2, and I'm just sending the ls-la command, and it should spit out the home directory there with its output. So now I'm going to go to the UI, and I'm going to go into logs SSH, and you can see that I just sent this ls-al command. Then you can go and see this audit activity in the command line. So I bounded this by just starting today, and it takes a second or two for it to show up, but you can see that that it just showed up. There's some things to note here. You actually see the replay, which is this field, says false, and that's because this SSH session isn't a session that can be replayed. I sent a non-interactive command via SSH, which was just a command sent on the same line, and I wasn't logging in and staying in, and that's why it's not a replayable session. But when you do this, you actually have the command that you sent right here, so you can see if you're auditing what was sent. So you can't avoid having your command saved in the session just by sending it all on the command line all at once. So let's do a short interactive SSH session using strongDM. So this is me logging into one of my servers. Here I am, and I'm going to go into var log. I'm going to echo hi, and then I'm going to log out. Now I go into here, and I'm going to refresh the page. And now I have this interactive session that I can look at. And you'll see that it's the same exact commands that I just sent, which makes sense because this is created from the log file. So I'm going to exit out here, and I'm going to copy this session ID. So once I exit the command, the interactive session, then it creates the session. Now that I have the session ID, what can I do with it? We can play this session in the UI, which I just showed, or you can play it on the command line. So let's see if I do a SDM SSH play and then do the session ID. And something to note, these session IDs for SSH start with an S. With Kubernetes, those session IDs start with a K. And as previously mentioned, the session IDs for database queries starts with a 0. So now watch carefully. I'm playing this on the command line, and it's going to replay the entire session. That was me logging in. This is me changing to var log, and then echoing hi, and then exit. So I can see that all on the command line, which is really pretty neat. So one question we did not answer yet, however, is where are the logs that contain this SSH information? Right now, as far as we know, it's only available in the browser at strongDM, because this is hosted from strongDM. It's not pulling these from our local logs. So in the case of this particular resource, this aws-ssh2, I'm connecting through a gateway configured on an EC2 instance, and I'll show that here. So my gateway is actually right here. I've changed the log file location to varlog SDM, and since the session information are kept in the logs subfolder, that's where I am right now. So I'm in varlog SDM logs. I'll clear the screen. So I'm going to grep that session ID that I just took from the last log file in this folder. So this is the last log file. I'm going to grep session ID. And you can see, make it a little more easy to see, that there are 4 lines. There's a start, there's a type chunk, there's a post start, and a complete to every interactive session. So to make this a little bit clearer, I hope, that is pulling just the types from each, from that particular session. So I think one of the things that are really important is to be able to see what was actually sent within the session, and that information is in the chunk file or chunk line. Well, let me show one more example. So this is me looking at one of these sessions. It's a prior session, but it's one of these, it's another session. And this shows what exactly is being sent in this log line. So I'm just pulling out the duration and the data. And so this data that's sent, this is the information that's in that chunk. So that chunk has what looks like garbage in here, but this is just base 64 encoded data that means something. So if I want to show you what that exactly says, then I can do a command like that. I'll clear the screen and run it again. And you can see that it says, welcome to Ubuntu 2004.3 LTS. And that's actually exactly what I saw when I logged into my server. So each of the lines that we saw that are chunk lines contain some bit of information. And as you saw a minute ago with the duration, let's see. This duration gives the SDM an indicator of exactly when that command was sent. So that's how a replay is formed. It uses the duration and uses the data that's sent within that duration. You can split out all the SSH sessions in a particular log file as well if you want to dive into what all SSH sessions went on during this time frame. So I'm going to do that with this last log. This last log had 3 interactive SSH sessions. So now what I can do is I can use the SDM SSH play command and use the file and play any one of these. So the difference between doing it like this and doing it directly from SDM is this is actually using information that is generated from a local log file, meaning you don't actually have to send the logs to SDM in order to replay your SSH sessions. And you can see it replaying CD into var log, echoing hi, and then exiting. In summary, you can view SSH sessions in the admin UI, in the CLI, and you can decode and replay those same SSH sessions from the log files as well. And that's everything I wanted to show you today. I appreciate your time.